Don't forget to like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe to keep up with our latest stories. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of day that begins under dull skies and a soft drizzle. The kind of weather that makes you want to stay curled up under a blanket with a warm drink and a good novel. I was 52, living alone in a snug little home on Pinecrest Lane. A street where everyone sort of knew everyone, but no one truly did, if that makes sense. We waved, shared brief greetings, sometimes borrowed baking ingredients, but that was about it. Life was steady, familiar, and if I'm being completely honest, just a little lonely. That morning, I sat at my kitchen table, gazing out at my rain-drenched backyard. The hydrangeas were blooming, bright blue petals heavy with moisture. The tall elm tree swayed gently in the breeze. I was deep in thought, sipping my chamomile tea, when I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My son Alex was busy with his own world in the city, and my friends were caught up in their family lives and jobs. I paused, set my mug down, and walked to the door. When I opened it, I was surprised to see my neighbor, Mr. Carter, standing there. A tall man in his late 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes. He lived 3 houses down, and though we'd exchanged polite words over the years, we'd never really spoken. He held a small wrapped package in his hands, and he looked a bit uneasy, unusual for someone like him. "Good morning, Julia," he said, voice warm but uncertain. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all," I said, offering a smile. "What can I do for you, Mr. Carter?" "Please call me Martin," he replied, smiling back. I noticed you've been out in your garden a lot lately. You've got quite the touch." I laughed softly. "It keeps me busy. I find it calming." He nodded, then held out the package. "I came across this at the farmer's market over the weekend, and it reminded me of you. It's just a little something to brighten your day." I was genuinely touched. No one had given me a gift like that in years. I took the parcel, feeling its weight. "Thank you, Martin. That's very thoughtful." He shifted, almost bashful. "Well, I'll let you get back to your morning. Take care, Julia." "You too," I said, watching as he turned and made his way back down the path. I closed the door and opened the wrapping. Inside was a beautiful ceramic pot, painted with dainty flowers and winding vines. It was exactly the kind of thing I might have chosen myself. I ran my fingers along its smooth surface, feeling a strange blend of appreciation, curiosity, and something else I couldn't quite name. That afternoon, I planted a small fern in the pot and placed it on my porch. As I worked, I kept glancing down the lane toward Martin's house. I realized I hardly knew anything about him. Only that he was a widower and had lived here as long as I had. The next day, I baked a batch of oatmeal cookies, my grandmother's recipe, and walked over to Martin's home. When he answered, he looked pleasantly surprised. "I wanted to thank you for the planter," I said, holding out the plate. It was such a sweet gesture. He smiled, eyes crinkling. "You didn't need to do that, but I appreciate it. Would you like to come in for some coffee?" I paused, then nodded. "I'd like that." His house was cozy and full of warmth. Bookshelves lined the walls, and a fireplace sat quietly in the living room. We sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and chatting about everything from gardening to travel to our favorite novels. I was amazed by how effortless the conversation felt, how comfortable I was. Walking home later that evening, I realized how much I had missed this kind of connection. It wasn't about the gift or the cookies. It was about how Martin had noticed me, truly seen me, not just as the woman who lived down the street. That night, lying in bed, I thought about Martin's quiet act of kindness and how it had stirred something in me. Something I hadn't known was asleep. A door had opened, and through it came possibility. The days that followed Martin's gift felt different somehow. The world seemed to shine just a little brighter, like someone had adjusted the lens. The rain passed, and sunlight poured over Pinecrest Lane. My garden responded. Flowers bloomed bolder, leaves seemed more vibrant. Or maybe I was just seeing everything more clearly. I found myself thinking about Martin more often. That first coffee had been so easy, so natural. It wasn't just what we talked about. It was the way he listened, as though my words mattered. A few days later, I was trimming the roses when I heard footsteps on the sidewalk. I looked up and saw Martin approaching, hands in his pockets, smile on his face. Good morning, Julia, he said, stopping at my gate. Those roses are incredible. You've got real skill. I wiped my hands on my apron and smiled. Thanks, Martin. They're my favorite. Mind if I take a closer look? Of course, I said, opening the gate. I showed him the varieties, the deep reds, soft pinks, creamy whites. He listened carefully, asked questions, admired the blossoms. You know, he said after a bit, I've always wanted a garden like this. But I never had the patience. I admire your dedication. It's not so hard, I said. Just takes a little time. And love. He laughed. Maybe you could teach me a thing or two? I paused, then said, I'd be happy to. Why don't you come by tomorrow morning? We can start then. His face lit up. I'd like that. Thank you, Julia. The next morning, Martin showed up right on time. Worn jeans, flannel shirt. I gave him gloves and showed him how to prep the soil. We worked together, talking and laughing as we dug and planted. I found myself enjoying his company more than I'd expected. As the weeks passed, these sessions became routine. Sometimes at my house, sometimes his. It wasn't really about the gardening anymore. It was about the connection, shared time, shared stories, a bond forming between us. One afternoon, after planting tulips in his yard, Martin suggested we rest on the porch. He brought out iced tea, and we sat watching the birds flit through the trees. You know, he said, I've lived here more than 20 years and never really got to know anyone. I suppose I've always kept to myself. I understand, I said. It's easy to stay in your own little bubble. He looked at me thoughtfully. I'm glad you moved in, Julia. You've made this place feel like home again. His words moved me more than I expected. Thank you, Martin. That means a lot. We sat in a gentle silence, the kind you don't need to fill. Time passed, and our friendship deepened. We shared more memories, dreams, even our losses. I learned he'd been a schoolteacher before retiring, that he loved old jazz and classic films. He told me about his late wife, Elise. She was my heart, he said one evening as we watched the sun dip behind the houses. I never thought I'd find that feeling again. I understand, I said, hearing the ache in his voice. He looked out into the fading light. But I think she'd be glad to see me like this, spending time with someone who makes me smile. His words stayed with me long after he left. Then came the storm. It was late September. The air was unseasonably warm, and the leaves were turning gold and crimson. Martin and I had been spending more time together, gardening, sharing meals, even taking short trips. It felt real, like something lasting. But that night the wind picked up. The rain slammed down. I stood at my window, uneasy, watching the trees toss like sails. The lights flickered, then went out. Then came the crash. I grabbed my flashlight and raincoat and ran outside, heart hammering. A massive tree had fallen through Martin's roof. Martin, I shouted, banging on his door. Are you okay? He opened it, pale and shaken but unhurt. I'm all right. But the tree, it came down right through the roof. You can't stay here, I said. It's not safe. Come with me. He hesitated, then nodded. I helped him grab essentials, clothes, medications, a photo of Elise, and we ran back through the rain to my home. Once inside, I gave him dry clothes and started tea. We sat by the fireplace, wrapped in warm light and quiet. Thank you, Julia, he said. I don't know what I'd have done without you. You don't have to thank me, I said. That's what friends are for. After a long pause, he said, this reminds me of a night Elise and I spent during a storm when we were young. We didn't have much. Just each other. That was enough. She sounds wonderful. She was, he said softly. And you remind me of her. Martin. He reached for my hand. I know this might not be the best moment, but I need to say it. These past few months have meant more to me than I can explain. You've brought light back into my world. And I don't want to let that go. I looked into his eyes and felt something stir deep inside. You've brought light into mine too. I didn't realize how much I needed someone until you. He smiled gently. Then maybe we can figure this out. Together. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, it felt like the sun had returned. We talked late into the night, until the rain stopped and morning crept in. The next day was clear and bright. One of those mornings that smells like renewal. Martin and I sat at the table, sipping coffee and eating toast with jam. I should call the insurance company, he said. And probably a contractor. We'll sort it out, I said, squeezing his hand. Step by step. We worked side by side over the next days, clearing debris, talking with adjusters, helping one another. One evening, watching the sunset together, he turned to me. I've been thinking about what you said. I don't want to spend any more time alone. I want to be with you. If you'll have me. Tears sprang to my eyes. I want that too, Martin. More than anything. He took my hands. Then let's do this. Let's build something new. And we did. He spent more time at my house until it simply felt like home. We spoke of the future, of blending our lives, of growing old with someone again. One crisp fall morning, we walked hand in hand down Pinecrest Lane. You know, he said as we passed a fiery red maple. I think Elise would have liked you. Really? She always said I needed someone with heart, and fire, and kindness. That's you, Julia. Tears came again, but I let them fall. Thank you. That means more than you know. He stopped, turned to me, and held both my hands. We may not be young, but I believe we still have many good years. And I want to share them with you. I want that too, I whispered. He kissed me soft, sure, like a promise. As we walked on, the leaves crunching under our feet, I felt the warmth of a life beginning again. Whatever came next, I knew we'd face it together. Because sometimes, the most beautiful parts of life begin when you least expect them.